All right, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, citizens of YouTube. This is Pastor Dow. I wanted to go ahead and actually read this article from Zero Hedge. I had already reported earlier about how the Russian have told all their people abroad, students, no matter who you are, get back to the motherland. So I wanted to go ahead and read the article right here from Zero Hedge, all right? Heading, Russian government officials told to immediately bring back children studying abroad. In Europe, when it gets serious, you have to lie. At least if you are an unelected bureaucrat like Jean-Claude Juncker. In Russia, however, when it gets serious, attention immediately turns to the children. Which is why we read a report in Russian website, Zanak, published Tuesday, according to which Russian state officials and government workers were told to bring back their children studying abroad immediately, even if it means cutting their education short and not waiting until the end of the school year, and re-enroll them in Russian schools with some concern. The article adds that if the parents of these same officials also are live abroad for some reason and have not lost their Russian citizenship, should also be returned to the motherland. Zanak cited five administrative officials as a source of the report. The recommendation applies to all, for the administration staff and their regional administrators, to lawmakers of all levels, employees of public corporations, and also subject to the ordinance. One of the sources said that anyone who fails to act will find such non-compliance to be a complicating factor in the furtherance of their public sector career. He added that he was aware of several such cases in recent months. It appears that the underlying reason behind the command is that the Russian government is concerned about the optics of having children of their Russian political elite being educated abroad while their parents appear on television talking about patriotism and being surrounded by enemies. Now, wait a minute. Wait. See, this is called spin right here. This is called spin. You don't sit up there and start calling all your citizens back to the country because you're worried about their education abroad. You do that because it's a prelude to war. You want your citizens back home. While we doubt the impact of children will be happy by this development, some of the more patriotic locals, if unimpacted, are delighted, such as Vitalia Invaka. I guess I got the Russian name right. I'm not sure. The political scientist who believes that the measure to return children and officials studying abroad is long overdue. According to this guy, the education of children of the Russian elite abroad is subject to constant ridicule and derision against the ruling regime. People note the hypocrisy of having a centralized state and cultivating patriotism and anti-Western sentiment while children of the government workers study abroad. You cannot serve two gods. One must choose. Well. So religion comes into play whether we like it, comprehend it, understand it or not, huh? On the other hand, the political analysis, and then they have this name, believes that such derisions or such decisions should be approached with a more pragmatism. Such a recommendation is more likely to lead to an outflow of officials from the state rather than allow the return of children studying from elite foreign universities. He also warns of attempts to recreate the echo chamber such as that experience after the failed July coup attempt in Turkey's President Erdogan. But what he said next was more disturbing. On the other hand, this is part of a package of measures to prepare the elites for some big war, even if it is rather conditional. On the other hand, is another blow to the unity of President Putin's with his own elite. He adds that the Western sanction in March 2014 has sought to drive a wedge between Putin and the elites. In response, the Kremlin began to act precisely according to the logic of these sanctions. But while the ban for having assets in the West is one thing, and an understatement, when it comes to the ban for offshore health and educational services, the blowback will be far greater, as it represents a far more important element of the establishment's life strategy. Ultimately, the motivation behind Putin's decision is unclear, whether it is to show Russia's high-ranking oligarchs who is boss, to boost a sense of patriotism among the nation by sending a symbolic message that the West is no longer welcome destinies for Russia's rich kids, or just a preemptive move in repatriating any of the individuals of the Russian politics for unknown reasons. However, if underscores of these severities of ongoing diplomatic crisis and just how significant the upcoming isolation between Russia and the West is likely to become in the upcoming months. Unless, of course, tensions de-escalate dramatically in the very near future, resulting in a greater collapse of global commerce and further slowdown to the world economic growth, which may ultimately lead to an armed conflict, whether regional or global, as the only possible outcome. Well, first of all, there's a lot said, and that's the reason why I was slowing down there on that article, because I had many thoughts coming up in my mind. So does that mean that RT is going to call all their reporters back from Washington? And also, I am a student of history. I try my best to study history, and I understand moves like this very much so. While even in this article right here, they try to spin the narrative. Let me go ahead and be frank with you. We're bankrupt as a country. We are broke. The United States of America is broke as hell. It's amazing how that when Barack Hussein Obama came in office, he was blaming everything on Bush, but yet he has surpassed Bush, and not only Bush, but the whole entire history of our debt-based economy in this country in all but 8 years. We're sitting here at $20 trillion in debt, 220 trillion something dollars in Medicaid, Medicare, and unfunded liabilities. And what's the answer for that? War. War is big business. War is big money. Whether you like it, comprehend it, understand it or not, it's totally irrelevant. Anytime you see war on the horizon, that's because it is big business. Not only that, it's also a prelude for the elites to go ahead and reduce the population. Because if there's, get too many people in the world, war. We just go ahead and commit war. But the United States of America, we're only after resources. We're after resources and control, and we like to go into sovereign nations, oust the dictators, that's what we call them, oust the presidents or the prime minister and stuff, and then put our puppet masters in there who we want to control. So we'll have a staging area to be able to control the whole entire region, because we are functioning just like ancient Rome. And you can tell that because our civilization in this society right here is on a very serious decline. I mean, after all, 70% divorce rate by a forced monogamous society. Man, this thing is getting bad. And not only that, debauchery is well on the rise. And there's literally no morals, no values in this country any longer anymore. So what are we to do as the people? Well, I'll tell you what you ought to do. Same thing I've been telling you the whole time. You need to save yourself, preserve yourself, because your country is not going to do it for you. Your country is not going to be here to aid you when catastrophe and disaster hits. I also like to tell us that if we think that we're going to get by unscathed because we're the world's lone superpower, and we think that war is not coming to our backyard, that somehow, some way that pond, that big old gigantic pond called an ocean, is some type of invisible fence that is going to stop the powers that be in this world from coming over here and influencing the major cities, the financial markets, financial Armageddon, war in itself. They're already terror cells all throughout the United States of America, and they're all just waiting for a hit. My advice is still the same as it always been of old. Get out of the cities. You should have got out of debt a long, long time ago. Now you should be to the point where you're just saving yourself. Many people have already started thanking me for being able to listen to the advice that I've given. Because I'm telling you right now, natural disaster, catastrophe, war, or whatever hits, EMP, who knows? If it hits in their cities, you ain't getting out. You're gridlocked. You're in a grid down situation. and your freedom and liberty and your ability to be able to protect yourself has definitely become null, nil, and void. Because you didn't make wise choices and decisions when you had the opportunity to. Because you, like many, many other people, you had this normacy bias. It's never happened to you. You may have read it in history, but since it's never happened to you, therefore it can never happen and it'll never take place. And therefore, I've convinced myself that it's never going to take place. That's what we had here in America. And it's a sad situation, too. It's a very, very sad situation. But I can tell you right now that the American dollar is failing. And that's one reason why we went over to Libya and stuff, because Omar Gaddafi was trying to start his own particular currency there in Africa and then outs the West from it. And so, of course, what do? We go in and we kill him. And of course, you can't expect the American news media. They're not going to report to you people. You have to understand this, America. I want you to listen to me. If you listen to me. And this is one thing that's very disturbing about America right here, is because if the news media said it, if the president says, if the politician said, you believe it. You believe it. But see, I've always been on the other side of history. My people have always been on the other side of history. And we don't trust fork-tongued people. When their mouth is moving, they're lying. And there's no transparency, there's no transparency in any of this. And these people are not going to be honest with you. And if something is going to go down here in this country, you're going to be the last to know. You know, when the bomb hit the ground, that's when you're going to know that something is greatly wrong. And your country, once again, has deceived you. And you have not prepared yourself. I hate to paint a dismal picture. I really, truly do. I'm really almost tired of being pessimistic. I try to be optimistic about every single thing and try to view things from a positive perspective and point of view. But when there's nothing positive to report, there's nothing positive to see, why sit and lie? Why continue to act like that things are okay? Que sera, whatever would be. Why continue to keep acting like that? We're okay, the economy is recovering and everything is fine. No, it's not. We're on a global reset. We're on a global reset, and the transference of wealth is getting ready to take place amidst those who survived war, and including those of you who have not stored food. I remember, I've been telling you, get canned goods. Well, you sound like a fearmonger, Pastor. Now, hey, call it whatever you want. That's just old-fashioned values, old-fashioned wisdom is to go ahead and to store food. I mean, the people used to do it in the old days. You mean tell me you have that much trust in these stores? That these trucks are going to continue to keep running up and down these roads? You really think that the American Red Cross is going to be there? You remember Katrina? Hurricane Katrina, somewhere back in 2005, 2006. Remember that? Go down there in New Orleans and ask the people how the government helped them and protected them. And not only that, can you even trust your American citizens? Like I said before, down here in Florida, they had this Hurricane Matthew coming up, right? And I told everybody, I said, well, you know what's going to happen, don't you? Good old American capitalist system. They use it as an opportunity in order to capitalize off of others' misfortune. They tripled the cost of hotel rooms. A regular old pack of bottled water, where you can get a whole case of bottled water for like $4 or $5, went to $30 a case. Hey, entrepreneurship, hey, you're always taking advantage of every catastrophe you have to. That's an opportunity right there. See, that's the greed of America. And I think the problem is that we've been lulled and wooed to sleep by the welfare system, because we've always had food in our belly. And we become very, very dependent. And we become so dependent that our attitude is that we are very eased in Zion. Obama did give us change we can't believe in, huh? We went from bad to worse. And now he skates off into the wild blue yonder as if he's done something when he's done nothing but help destroy sovereign nations, impoverish the country, put us even more in debt more so than what we've ever have been, doubled it all in his, because spend. None of them have any stomach or solution to balance the budget. I don't care who comes up next. They ain't going to do it. This is business. America is a corporation. It's not a nation like you have in your mind. And the one thing I learned about Americans is they don't care nothing about facts. They care about feelings and emotions. They care nothing about facts whatsoever at all. They don't want to hear facts religiously, socially, politically, economically. Don't even report me the facts. Just tell me a lie so I can keep my mind at peace. It's just a sad situation where we've done declined to. But anyway, hey, I reported. You make decisions and choice yourself. But I'm telling you, you can't trust this government. But the person you can trust, and even that, the jury is even out, deliberating. Can you really truly trust yourself?